reason that I'm here is because the club is seeking change.
He said, well, whether you come or not, you're going to see a completely different Spurs team under me.
My hope and my desire and what I'm going to try and do is give our supporters hope and belief that we're going to embark on something special.
Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at @Stetka. This is episode 230, and Spurs have done it. They've prevented Arsenal from winning the league. What do you know? All it took was a little bit more convincing, and Ange Postecoglou finally did the right thing. What do you know? I've got Caroline alongside to talk about things. She is at CG Stefco. Caroline, what is up with you?
Well, feeling relieved that Spurs Women are safe from relegation officially. That's one worry off of our back.
This is really where we are at this point.
We're really just grasping at straws here.
Scott is also here. He's ducking dirty diapers, but we're pleased to have him alongside. He is at Scott G. Bird. Scott, what's up, man?
Chilling. Caroline makes an excellent point. This is a celebratory moment in time. Both teams are safe from relegation. Both teams will be in the top flight of English football next year. Just wonderful times.
It's just incredible. That's what we have. That's what we have for you. Wrap it up. Episode 230 in the books. Congrats, guys. We'll see y'all next week. No, I'm just kidding, of course. We do have a lot to discuss, surprisingly enough, despite two just kind of games that they happened, they occurred. That's kind of all the best that I can say about them. We're going to get into all of that and of course look ahead as well for the men to the Europa League. Just so much going on in the world of Spurs that is not super pleasant. Before we get into any of that, though, I want to remind everyone that we here at the Depot are proud to be partnered with Digital Spurs. Digital Spurs is Tottenham merch. That's all you need to know. Go to digitalspurs.com and see what Danny Garrison has put together, because there's all kinds of great artwork that he puts to merch. We're talking t-shirts, hoodies, hats like the one I'm wearing right now, like the one Caroline's wearing right now if you're watching on YouTube. Digitalspurs.com is where you go for your new Tottenham merch. You're not giving the money to the club if you're that kind. If you want to give your money somewhere else, that's the way to do it. Digitalspurs.com for all your new Tottenham merch. Guys, this was a day in which there were two matches for Spurs, both against Liverpool. And I want to start us on the women's side of things, which is not something we always do, but they got a point. So let's start on the positive and discuss Tottenham Hotspur women 2, Liverpool women 2. This was a match that I admittedly did not wake up for the first half of, but I did see the second half. It was a very, very early match for me out here on the west side of the country, a 4 a.m. kickoff. And I was up by about 5 for the second half, but I did not set my alarm so early. So you guys can let me know, because I did miss 3 goals in the first half. And I went back and did catch the highlights, but what do we need to know about this match? Because it was at least exciting and, an up and down affair, and Spurs managed to get a point. So, Caroline, what do we need to know? I know we got another Claire Hunt goal, which is always a positive in my book.
and not something I was expecting, I can candidly say. I wasn't even expecting her to be in the starting lineup, quite frankly, because seemed to be one of those players that was being frozen out by Robert. But we had a little bit of an availability issue in this game, because we had Evelina and Drew both suspended because of yellow card accumulation. So he kind of had to do some tinkering, and the upshot ended up being that Rybrink was moved forward into the midfield, which we've seen a couple of times since she joined, but I'm not convinced that's her best position either.
What is her best position? Because it's not center back either, it seems.
The best position is waving goodbye at the end of her 6-month contract.
Fair enough.
Is it horrible that I was going to say the bench is probably her best position?
That's tough, and it's just kind of strange to me, like the players who are not getting game time in these last few games, and the ones who are, because a lot of them seem to be players who in an ideal world would be moving on in the summer. So kind of concerning. But, it was, I guess that they did the best they could with what we had, and another early goal conceded, which was not great. We kind of battled back to get a couple of, really quick goals, and then take the lead actually, and ended up conceding an equalizer. So I wasn't really expecting us to get anything out of this game, to be honest. So I feel happy with the point, happy we're safe from relegation. I'm still kind of encouraged by a few of the players in recent weeks. It feels like a few of them are starting to kind of hit a stride again. Jess Nass has been looking really great, I would say. Probably one of the top performers over the past few games. And, we talked about Ella Morris a lot too. Like, she's been a consistent contributor. But yeah, I don't know. I still have so many questions about what Robert Villahamn is doing with his game management, with his subs, his team selection. I don't know. I just have concerns. I don't know. Did you see it differently, Scott?
I mean, I thought we functionally looked better today than we maybe have in recent times. I'm not going to turn my nose up at a point on the road against Liverpool. I long for the days where we expect more, but I don't think we can at this point, right? I thought, like you said, Jess was fantastic. There was one moment earlier in the match, and this is not to pick on Jess. This is a different point here, but Jess flew down the left flank, and she had Olivia hold on a square for a pretty good opportunity and chose to conduct a step over and then step inside and hit, and it got blocked. But I share that to say there's just way too much pressure on Jess Nash's shoulders to create right now, and I think that's why that happens, right? It's not because she's a selfish player or just chooses not to square that ball. I think her mind was only thinking one thing at that point in time, and then it's I need to create a goal scoring opportunity here. So I feel for Jess Nash. She's one of those players similar to maybe Kulisevsky on the men's side, who is just trying to do more than they can because that's what's required at this point. I thought Ella Morris was good. I don't love Vinberg at this point. I thought Morris offered more than Vinberg down the flank, right? And not that Vinberg was bad, but it's really just my bias saying that I would have liked to see Lena Gunning-Williams get some minutes at that point, right? I think we're at that point in the season where, kind of similar to Mikey Moore, just let the kids play some football in the domestic competition, right? We don't have much going on, but overall, like I said, we played okay and we got a point. I was definitely nervous to see Rybrink in the midfield. Wasn't as bad as I expected, to be honest. That's the first time I've been able to sit down and watch her play in the midfield. And again, I don't think it was as bad as I would have expected. Holt was just kind of okay. And then Arose is an interesting one. I think maybe there was a lot of pressure put on that signing too, and hype, trying to replace some of the talent that we lost to primarily just to Manchester United over the summer, right? But Arose was attempting to make an impact on the game, and I think we can continue to expect her to improve into next season if things go the way we expect them to.
The way we expect them to. It's kind of that.
I shouldn't say expect.
Boy, was that great.
Don't put that pressure on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy, is that something. It's only 2 matches left for Spurs Women. Of course, next week they will host Chelsea at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is nice. On the downside of that, it could be Chelsea clinching the WSL title at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at that point. Chelsea currently with a 6-point lead over Arsenal for the title, but both of them have midweek matches ahead of that the next weekend. So all of that could be getting sorted at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium by Sunday. So we will have to see. And then Spurs will travel to Everton for the final match week of the season the following Saturday. So that's kind of where we are with Spurs Women. It's where do you guys stand just quickly on, like, do we think that Robert is back? That's the other thing about this, is that we just haven't heard anything. It's the opposite on the men's side. We've obviously heard a lot about Ange Postecoglou's future, but we've heard nothing about Robert Villaham's future, only that they're trying to enhance the kind of scouting muster and power behind this program, but we haven't really heard anything about the head coach specifically. So what do we think? Are we open to him coming back and continuing this project, or do we want to rip the Band-Aid at this point?
I
I think the hesitation says everything. That's where we're at, right?
You know, we haven't heard anything, and I don't think we will. My instinct is that with I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name. With the new CEO coming in, there's a good chance that a change is made. If all rings true as to his focus historically on the women's teams at his respective clubs, right? So we all know the story at Arsenal. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's talk about revamping and adjusting the scouting network. I wouldn't be surprised if a change is made at the top. I've said it before, but I don't think I've seen any sort of progression under Robert. I maybe even would use the word regression. Now, there have been injuries. The squad was, I don't want to say gutted, but ripped up a little bit in some key areas over the summer too, right? So I'm not blind to that, but I don't think I've seen enough progress for me to feel strongly that he's the right person at the top.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same place because it did feel like last season he had kind of created this tactical foundation that we could have built on.
Yeah.
And the recruitment certainly didn't help, but at the same time, I agree with you. I think we've seen some regression, especially from players that we were feeling pretty good about at the end of last season.
Yeah.
We just talked about Jess Naz earlier, and she's looking better, at the tail end of the season, but it's been kind of a rough campaign for her for the most part, outside of, getting her England call-ups. So, I just have some concerns about, we hope that the recruitment structure is going to get fixed and that the manager, whether that's Robert or someone else, isn't going to be primarily the one choosing the players. Because I think we do need a little bit of separation there. The thing is, I don't know, it's hard to say, especially with the new CEO coming in, but I kind of just wonder if the club is going to be content to kind of let the underperformance on the women's side kind of go under the radar compared to the men's team. And leave Robert in place and give him a chance to kind of make things right, just because, sadly, I think the women's team just does not get as much attention, period.
Yeah.
So there's not been as much, I would say, clamor from the wider fan base for him to leave. I think, I was just talking to my co-host on N17 Women about this earlier in the week, that match-going fans are starting to put some of that vocal pressure on the manager. But we don't necessarily, that doesn't reach those of us who are, enjoying our fandom online, enjoying, maybe not the right word this year, but it's tough to tell what the vibe is even within the club,
Well, I think there's an interesting dichotomy there too, though, between what Robert has been given, like Scott mentioned, that squad really did kind of get ripped apart and has not been enhanced. Whereas when we compare all the time on the men's side, we feel like the squad that Ange Postecoglou was handed should be better than, almost DFL in the Premier League. It should be doing better than that. And whereas on the women's side, the expectation level, because of the way the squad was put together, I don't think was quite there. So that is a little bit of the difference for me.
You beat me to it, Andrew. I think the more I think about Robert, last year, Caroline and I had this conversation many times. The patterns were fantastic last year. The progression was awesome. Everybody knew where they needed to be. Everybody understood the pass that was expected. And then when they received the ball, it was very structured. I'm a big fan of structured patterns of progression. I know there is an element to football that needs to be artistic, but I'm a big fan of having structure there. And I think Robert showed us that last year. This year, it's been pretty dross, but I do give him more of a pass than I give Ange. And I'm sure we'll talk big picture on the men's side a little bit down the road here. But when we're talking about where the squads currently sit on the men's side, I would say there's maybe 5 or 6 teams that have a better squad on paper than us, and we're sitting in 16th place. On the women's side, I think our squad is about 8th or 9th in the table, which is where we sit, right? If you look on paper. So I think maybe I don't want to say fully retract, but retract pieces of what I said earlier, that I may be open to to Robert being around next season, because I think there could be more investment in the women's squad with his new CEO coming in. And if you can give Robert a few key pieces, I think he could do something interesting with it.
It's to me, it's all about that. It's all about investing more, and that doesn't just mean spending money, but investing more. And feel like I've been beating this drum for a while, but investing in the recruitment. We cannot have Robert Villaham just bringing in former players from the leagues that he used to coach in. That's not how it works at top levels of football. And like it or not, the WSL, the top of the WSL is so much more top than where Spurs are right now. And that's kind of what needs to change in my mind.
Anytime you fill your organization with your homies, it's going to go bad.
No question. No question about it. On the other side of things for the men, look, I don't have anything very enlightening or quippy to say about Liverpool 5, Tottenham Hotspur 1. It was cool to take the lead and you know, a nice Dom Solanke header off of a corner, like cool, thumbs up, love that for us. But from there on, it was a cat and a mouse, and a cat playing with a mouse. That's all it was throughout at Anfield. Like that's what it felt like to me. I don't know if you guys had any other takeaways. The game itself, atmosphere was something to behold. I mean, like just for a football fan in general, like Spurs had to go there and do what they had to do, but like for Liverpool fans to clinch it home, and especially I know they won it a few years ago, but obviously that was in the midst of the pandemic and they weren't able to be there for it. So this was a really big deal for Liverpool fans, and it showed because the atmosphere was electric.
Yeah, definitely. It was, you know, I don't feel like the atmosphere always comes across when you're watching on the broadcast, and it definitely did in this game.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any particular negative feelings towards Liverpool, despite, you know, the Champions League final. I can't.
I think it's jealousy, isn't it? Like that's what it is for me, at least.
That you dislike the most? Mine is Newcastle, personally.
Oh no! I'm talking about with Liverpool. I think my main feeling toward them is not like dislike; it's jealousy. Like I'm jealous of them.
I thought you said Chelsea. Okay.
No. Sorry, jealousy. like that's my main angst or animosity towards Liverpool is simply jealousy. Like that's
at
all
their well-run organization and cohesion.
Yes,
correct. And not only that, but their I just touched on it. Their atmosphere, their history. Like, not that Spurs don't have a lot of those things, but like they have a very good one, and I think they do things in a mostly right way. And I don't know. It's been interesting for me to see Jurgen Klopp leave, and everyone was like, "Oh, what's going to happen?" And then, you know, Arne Slot just comes in, and you know, I really like the line that John Champion dropped at the very end that. You know, Arne Slot delivered the jackpot for them. And that's exactly what he did. Like it is very, very, you know, and obviously Klopp deserves a lot of credit for everything that was laid before this season, obviously, but this was a damn good team, and they got the job done.
Well, I think Slot even, you know, gave credit to Jurgen Klopp for kind of, you know, the foundation that he laid. And I think that really is part of the reason Liverpool's been so successful, is that continuity. Sure. You know, it's not like at Tottenham where, you know, a new manager comes in and it's like, here's a mess, enjoy.
Yeah,
which is what we might be experiencing here in about another month and a half.
Yeah, exactly. No, I have nothing but respect for Liverpool. Like Caroline said, they're an extremely well-run organization. Look back they sold Coutinho to Barcelona for 160 million. They built a dynasty on that sale. And then when the dynasty got a little stale, they sold Sadio Mane to Saudi Arabia, when everyone was saying, why would you get rid of Mane at this point? He's like almost in his prime, a little bit past it, right? But they refreshed the project with the sale of Sadio Mane. So they know how to move players on. They're really good at it. When they identify the right target, they act swiftly and they pay whatever is required to get that player in. Think Virgil van Dijk, right? The entire world wanted him, and they went and got it done, and he's probably the best center back on the planet. So, I just have nothing but respect for Liverpool. I tip my cap to them. When we scored that goal today, it reminded me of like when a little brother accidentally hits the big brother And the Big Brother's like, dude, you're absolutely fucked now. Like this is going to be a bad experience for you at this point in time. And that's exactly what happened. It felt like, I said it in the group chat, it felt like accidental almost that we scored that goal. And we were like, I'm so sorry, sir. Like, please take it easy on us. They only put 5 passes. It could have been a lot worse, but yeah, I tip my cap to Liverpool for sure.
It was 5 goals, but it was only like 2.23 in XG. So
yeah,
that shows you how that shows you the cat and mouse nature of this thing.
Yeah,
it also says a lot about our defense too. I think.
Oh my gosh,
unfortunately,
maybe even our goalkeeper.
And something that actually, not that, I mean, look, what else are we going to say about this match? Like, there's not much to say. Like I said, like they threw out a rotated side with the 2 backup center backs instead of the 2 starters because of what's coming on Thursday. You want to have guys rested and so on and so forth. But everything that Liverpool did today is kind of what Bodo tries to do. Like they try to get out on the wings, and and I know they're going to be down a few players. In fact, there's a center back that just got hurt this week who may now miss, but that's exactly what this club tries to do from everything I've read coming up. So it's like, you better show something, and Spurs are not showing anything defensively. You're exactly right, Scott. Like just right now it is just, and I get it. It's Liverpool, but man, it's really depressing to just see how bad it has gotten. And what really stood out to me as well is, the match in between the 2 Bodo legs is West Ham. And that's who we're quote unquote fighting with for the 16-17 spot. Like that match, I guess doesn't mean anything, but like if we lose that match, we're probably finishing 17th as opposed to 16th. And that's just where we are right now. Like we are going to be bottom of the barrel in terms of the non-relegated teams, but still have a chance to go win a trophy. It's just the weirdest season that I can imagine.
So today was not unexpected at all, but
of course not.
Definitely had me in my feels. I think I just kind of reached a bit of a breaking point today, and I wasn't like mad or upset or sad or anything. I think I just like finally threw my hands up in the air and just said, fuck this squad. But I look at the decisions Ange made today too, and I think there's a couple that are worth talking about. I understand rotating the center backs, whatever. I think he gave them each 45 minutes against Forest. I might have done that today and rotated heavily against Forest, which I thought was kind of a weird decision. Now they haven't played football in like 10 days when they play Bodo Glimt. Archie Gray, I'm so sorry, Archie. Like you get thrown into the 6 for the first time this year against the second best team on the planet after Barcelona, I would say, maybe third after PSG, right? But that is just a recipe for disaster. The kid's confidence is probably not sitting very, very high right now. I thought that was a failure from Ange Postecoglou. And I probably would have given Richie a go because Dom hasn't done much. Now, Dom scored, so I understand. I'm not blind to that either, right? But I would have liked to have seen what Richie is capable of. I also think that starting Madison and bringing on Kulusevski at halftime was a little bit strange. I think at first glance, you think, okay, maybe Kulusevski is going to be given a go. But then he yanks Madison, and I start to wonder, okay, maybe Madison's going to be given a go, and he's resting him for these 45. Like at that point, I don't think that's a tactical decision. So I don't know.
Well, I think that it's pretty clear to me based on what he did today, who he's deciding to start on Thursday. I think he's going to start both Madison and Kulusevski
at the same time.
I have to imagine he will because Bergvall played the entire 90, and that's my guess.
I don't know. Children have energy though, and that guy's a child.
Yeah, I feel less certain about predicting Thursday's lineup, and I guess we could see that as a good thing because maybe our opponent will also be caught unaware. But yeah. I do think the one silver lining of this game was that goal for Solanke because that will help his confidence on top of the penalty that he scored in the previous game. So. Otherwise, I agree with you on Archie. That decision really kind of made me mad, to be honest.
Yeah, and then he yanked him at halftime,
because we've talked about this concept of Ange protecting Mikey Moore, and I'm pretty sure I even said word for word on a recent episode, where's the protection for Archie? Like, what is going on with his season all of a sudden? It's very baffling to me. And to throw him into this position where he's barely played against the best team in the league, arguably the world right now.
Yeah.
Not great squad management, in my opinion. And, I mean, y'all know how I feel about Ange's man management in general. So that's nothing new, but yeah, I don't know. So overall, I just felt like from a sort of mental morale perspective, I feel not so great about the upcoming Europa League game. But we'll have to see how the squad reacts and if they can recover and put it behind them, as they say. We'll see.
Well, like Scott said, like this was not unexpected, and the fact that you can just go in, take your beating, like you knew was going to happen to some extent.
And it was a beating.
And it was a beating. And obviously some guys were rested. Like Bentancur wasn't even in the squad. I would expect to see him back for Thursday. You would think. I mean, he's been playing all of these matches. You would imagine he's back in the 6 role. The great thing, it didn't bother me as much. I just am still in the camp that I'm not convinced where Archie Gray's best position actually is. I know everyone thinks he's the number 6 of the future. I really loved all season when he was playing at center back and even at fullback. Like I thought he looked more active and lively in those positions. And granted, we have not seen enough of him in the number 6 role to really make a judgment. I don't know why everyone's so ready to just throw him in. The number 6 role, especially in this system, is the most impossible thing ever to play. Like it is. And that's why we've been so hard on the likes of Ibasuma, Rodrigo Bentancur, whoever else has been thrown into that role, because it's a really difficult role to play. So throwing Archie Gray into that, I agree with you guys, is just, especially against Liverpool, is like, oh, okay, we're just going to feed him to the wolves, especially with Ben Davis and Kevin Danso behind him. Like, no offense, that ain't the center back pairing you want playing behind a very green number 6. Like that's not the way you want it to go. And it doesn't help that both of the fullbacks today were just like, I've never seen Jed Spence play such a bad game. I've seen Destiny Udogie play bad games before, and we've talked a little bit about that. They were both awful today, and with good reason. They were going up against some of the best wingers and attackers that the world sees. So I don't know. Like, it was very much a throw your hands up. I don't care. Just let it be over when it's over kind of thing. And that's just the way we kind of had to treat it. Did you guys have anything else from the game specific you wanted to touch on?
I'm just going to say, I think on Archie Gray, I think there's a secondary perspective, and that's maybe that he only played because Ibasuma is not going to see the pitch again for Tottenham Hotspur, and it seems that Ange has made that decision. So there's another world where Basuma gets the rotational start today, and it's not Archie Gray. And then I think on the Archie Gray piece, where is his best position? I don't think we're going to know that until we're playing a system that's not like trying to reinvent football, and we just play soccer. I think that will help us determine that a lot. And it's not even really a shot at Ange. Maybe it is, but I look at Archie today. That's 6 in this position. It's, one of you just said it, is such an incredibly challenging ask. We have 2 defenders at all times, right? When we're on the ball, and that's 6. I mean, you need eyes in the back of your head to play 6 for Ange Postecoglou, I'm convinced, right? And I don't know. I'll be very ready for the change. I told my wife today when I said earlier that I maybe reached a breaking point today. I looked at my wife today and I said, I cannot wait till Ange Postecoglou is not the manager of this club. And I don't say that out of angst or spite. I just refreshingly said, my goodness, I just cannot wait till someone else is the manager of this football club. I'm over it.
Well, it leads us into the kind of the last thing we need to talk about today, and that's all the reports this week that Ange Postecoglou's out no matter what happens in the Europa League. And for a while, we had kind of believed that it was the only way that he was going to save his job at Spurs, but it seems, based on all of the reporting, and look, we're not a podcast that goes off of like, oh, there's this report, but like this was a where there's smoke, there's fire situation this week with all the different media outlets that were reporting that it doesn't matter. It's gonna be over when it's over. Obviously, I think we're all to a point where we just have like Spurs were at Anfield today. We've just accepted it. I don't really know how it gets better other than obviously going and winning the Europa League. That's the only way it gets better. But I think that there's and this is something that we were discussing a little bit before we hit record. I think there's a little bit of danger even in that at this point. Not that we don't want it to happen, but you get yourself into a Champions League and then change your manager. What are we doing this summer? Like, how is this team being built? Who's coming in? There was also, look, and this was less known reporting, but like there was reporting that Spurs are going to want to go after a big name. Are we really barking up that tree again? Like, I don't know what direction this squad is heading in right now, and it's a little bit scary. I'm not gonna lie.
I think where I'm at with this is that if we win the Europa League, which is not a given, I feel like some people are really making the assumption that that is locked on, and I personally don't feel that way because I am not feeling great about either of our possible final opponents, let alone getting through this semifinal tie. But assuming that we do, that kind of helps the optics of this season. It kind of papers over the absolutely atrocious league season. But the fact remains that we've got a manager who just can't seem to juggle these multiple competitions. And it's a little bit ironic to me because, for years we've been saying, can we please get a manager who focuses on winning a cup? And well, here we are. And it does not feel the way we thought it was going to feel. But you're right, Andrew. Like, there's so many different ways this could go this summer, not just in terms of is it going to be a different manager? What's the squad going to look like? Are we going to be able to mount a serious Champions League campaign next season if that's the competition that we're in? I mean, I don't know. But I do feel personally that I don't think Ange is necessarily the manager to do it.
I've been laughing over here because I read a very interesting article this morning that I didn't share with either of you, out of respect for both of you.
Please tell me it didn't have to do with Mauricio Pochettino.
It did not.
Okay, good.
So the Spanish outlet Fichajes, I believe
that's definitely the correct pronunciation. Go with it.
I couldn't tell you, but they are saying that Spurs are in discussions to rehire Jose Mourinho.
I may have to give up this club.
So now you know I didn't share it with you this morning. I'm like,
but you did it live on the pod. Yeah, like that's such honestly a dick move. Like, how could you?
We're here to bring entertainment to the people. When we're live. Jose Mourinho is a name that's been floated around. Now, do I believe that will happen? Absolutely not.
I don't.
Fichajes, not terribly reliable as far as.
And again, this is why we're not a podcast that just goes on obscure reports. But I hear you. Like, I think what you're speaking to, though, Scott, is a little bit of the problem. Is that there's no clear. Okay, this is the direction we're going. Like, there's no clear path for what we're doing right now.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. You got me excited here, but look at Brighton. They could literally hire some dude walking down the street and they'd play the same type of football that they've played for the last decade. Liverpool, they have a plan. They have a structure, right? Yeah. Exactly. Like that was seamless. They said, okay, we need a manager that is as close to a carbon copy of Jurgen Klopp's style of play that we can find. Granted, I think Arne Slot may actually have fine-tuned Jurgen Klopp's style of football. Dare I say? I mean, they were so good this year, and Feyenoord was so good under him. But yeah, like you just said, we are so far removed from being able to do that at this football club, and that's the big issue here for sure.
Yeah, no, it's kind of where we're at, and honestly, I've spent so much time thinking about the micro this season with the cup run. All of this feels very 2019 to me, where the league has just gone to shit, but there's this cup run, so we're gonna hold on to something, and that's what we're holding on to. And afterwards, it is all going to crumble down. I mean, this sandcastle will fall, and the waves will wash it all up. But we're gonna enjoy it while it's here, and then we'll figure out how to build a new sandcastle afterwards. Like that's just kind of where we're at. I guess looking ahead to Thursday, we don't really know about Sonny for sure. He's been missing the last few matches with it's a foot, right? It's a foot injury of some kind, which feels like everyone's getting feet or ankle or knee somethings or others because all of them are running like crazy. But we'll see on him. I guess are we hell bent on getting Sonny back for Thursday, or could we roll out there with Tell and Odebear and Brennan Johnson and Solanke and Richarlison? Like, it feels like there's at least options there that could make something happen. So I guess that's part of the positive. But I mean, we know that they're going to be very, very down. I feel like people don't really realize Spurs are going to need to win this match, probably like 4-0 or something like it, because you got to build up that lead going into the second leg where it is going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, the Standard reported today that Son will most likely not be playing in the first leg, but should be back for the second leg for what it's worth. But honestly, I'm loving me some Matthias Tell on the left, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, I think it would be a mistake to put him right back into the lineup because he's missed so many games. It just wouldn't make sense. And Matthias, like you said, he's been playing pretty well. We got to let him build on that. As long as Son gets to lift the trophy at the end of the season, I really don't care, you know, how much game time he gets. I want that so badly for him. And that is really the only thing that is getting me through the end of the season, quite frankly.
Yeah, I know. We have to get. I think we have to go up to Norway to Bodo with a 2-goal advantage before I'm at least, if not honestly three goals before I'm really truly confident we can go get a result. But I said it on the last episode. This squad in the Arctic Circle on artificial turf just terrifies me.
It's a dangerous proposition for sure.
Yeah, I do not feel good about that. And frankly, I don't feel great about us even in the home leg. I'm going to say something that's controversial, but I don't think that Ange Postecoglou is the reason we're on the cusp of winning the Europa League. I just don't. I think he set the team up well in Frankfurt, really well, and I talked about that on the show following that match. I applaud him for that. It was very out of character. It did take Madison absolutely getting steamrolled for that to happen. I think if we go to extra time in Frankfurt, we lose. And they were giving it to us pretty thick at the end of the match. So I'm not going to sit here and say, bravo, Ange Postecoglou, you've got us in the Europa League semifinal. I applaud the players. I think when you're this bad domestically and all you have to play for is Europa League, it's not a coincidence that we're like semi-turning up for Europa League matches and just absolutely flat in the Premier League. But someone I know very well, not associated with this podcast, said that we will win the Europa League in spite of Ange Postecoglou. I'm not there, but I won't even bring up the fact that no one dropped down from the Champions League this year, but that will be brought up if we win the Europa League at some point.
Well, look, if we win the Europa League, and Caroline and I were joking about this before, the only other thing that we would need to happen is Arsenal not to win the Champions League. But if they do, you know what? Let's go beat their ass in the Super Cup then. Like that's where
North London Derby Super Cup. Oh man.
It can be played weeks after the match in Hong Kong. Is that where they're going? They're going somewhere in Asia.
In Hong Kong. Why not?
Sure,
right?
Why not? I don't actually know where the Super Cup is being played this summer, but that's kind of where we're at. It's just like go do something. It's the meme. You're poking them with the stick. Do something. Like that's where we are with Spurs at this point. Like do something. So hopefully they will, and we'll get to find out this week. We will be back with you guys next week, next Sunday. Spurs will be, have that game in the books. They'll have the West Ham game in the books. The Spurs women will have the Chelsea match in the books. We'll talk to you about all of that next week. Be sure to check out our episodes on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot, and leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice to help spread the word about the show. You can follow Scott at Scott G. Bird. You can follow Caroline at CG Stefko, and you can follow me at A Stetka. And again, most importantly, follow us at Tottenham Depot on all the socials. We will be back with you next week for hopefully what is a happy pod. And we're talking about going to Norway and, just with a nice, comfortable lead and taking it easy and cruising to Bilbao. That's what we're going to hope for. But until then, this has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.